Okay, this is just a simple introduction to adjustment layers. We're going to talk about adjusting color and adjusting vibrance of pictures and doing that with a clipping mask. Okay, so here's my finished picture. You can see I have added this girl into this picture. So she was not originally in there. She is on her own layer. She was this image right here. Okay. I also took part of the original picture and put this guy on his own layer, so he's standing in front of her. And then I've added these adjustment layers. I'm going to zoom up a bit, even though it'll be blurry because it's a small picture. But what you don't notice right now is that if we look at the original picture here, she's way brighter than everybody else. So you can see there's a big difference. Okay. The other thing that you probably don't notice is I've made a color change to this picture, and that's this gal's tennis shoes. So down here where this hue saturation is, notice I've changed the color. So we're going to go over those simple changes, and in your project, we want to have the use of levels, and if you don't have a good reason to use the levels, then certainly a color adjustment layer would be suitable, or both would be great. So I'm going to delete these layers, and we'll look at how we do this. So I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to delete this one. Now, ideally, when you do an adjustment layer, you do want to clip it like a clipping mask to the layer that it belongs to, just so it doesn't affect everything. For example, if I click on the girl layer and I add an adjustment layer, and we're going to use the little moon button to do it, and I'm going to add a levels adjustment. This is the most basic and most useful adjustment, okay? It's going to bring up the histogram in the properties panel. And the thing about the levels is the top button area where you see the mountains or whatever, if you pull the black in, it decreases or it increases the shadows. But see, it's doing it to the whole picture. Well, I only want it to do it to the girl. So we're going to clip it. And you can right click and create a clipping mask just like you can with other things. Or, see this button right here? This little button right here allows you to clip as well, or unclip. Okay? Now we do want it to be clipped. So now that it's clipped, if I pull it, it's only affecting the girl. See, look at the girl. As I pull, it's only affecting her. But you can already see that's improving this a bit, because if we look at everybody else who has dark hair, their dark hair is very, very dark, and hers wasn't initially. The middle are the midtones, or the gray areas. So again, if you lower it and their face gets too dark or whatever, you might need to lighten that. Now, she's a darker complected girl, so I do need to leave my gray tones down a bit. And then if we were to pull in on the white slider up here, it would lighten the white. Well, I don't want to do that. That makes her lighter than everything else in the picture. For that matter, she's already kind of lighter than everything else in the picture. So that's what the bottom slider does. It's like the opposite. So whereas the top slider increases the white, the bottom slider decreases the white. So now as I'm pulling back, her shirt's getting a little more kind of gray. She's getting a little more muted. So to me, she matches everything better. So let's look. Here's before, right? After. Before, after. I think that's a big improvement, and it doesn't stand out that she's just like new to the picture. Fortunately, this picture, there's not really any shadows anywhere because it's nighttime, so I don't have to worry about adding any shadows for her. Okay, that takes care of that. Let's deal with the color adjustment layer. So I'm going to zoom up on this girl's feet, and I'm going to click on the background layer where that belongs. Now, because she has white, white does not shift, neither does black when you're doing a hue saturation adjustment. So I could very easily just grab this, probably with a magnetic lasso around her shoe, to select the shoe. Now I'm going to want to select both, and of course we can always touch up the mask. So if it's not perfect, it's not a big deal. You just want to make sure both are selected. Once again, anything that's pure black or pure white will not adjust hue saturation. So you don't have to worry about it messing with black or white, but anything in between it will. Okay, now that I've got it selected, I'm going to come down to my button and hit hue saturation. And that's not initially going to do anything because I have to go to properties and adjust them. But I'm going to clip it first. So I'm going to hit my clip. So it's pointing down. And you should probably name these so you know what they do. And now if I modify my hue, it's going to shift colors. Okay. And she has on like a kind of blue teal on her shirt. What's really more of a blue and not a teal. And so I'm trying to match that a little bit. So you just kind of go through until it's roughly whatever color you want it to be. Kind of match. This saturation, if it's like too blue, you pull it back. And then you can also do lightness or darkness, but those aren't the best. Like, those kind of make things dingy. Okay? Now, again, I can touch this up on the layer mask as need be. So if I can see a little bit, like I can see a little bit of the original pink going on around some of these edges, then again, when you're zoomed up to the pixel level, you can kind of paint over it. And honestly, like, some of the reds are just like, that just shows up when you're zoomed up close on people who are darker complected or who have a tan. So now this one's pretty easy to shift again because it's white and then the other color. And like black and white shoes, you're not going to be able to shift the color of. And that's pretty much it. So if I zoom out here, that looks pretty legit. You probably would have had no idea. And again, it's still editable. I can always go back and click on here if I'm like, you know, I need to shift that color a little bit more blue. There, that's a better blue, right? Or it's a little too bright. I can pull that down just a little bit. And that's it. So for your project, you just want to make things look more realistic from here on out. A levels adjustment is always kind of the first one because you can adjust the lights and darks and midtones. And then try out doing something that's got a different color somewhere. It doesn't have to be something great, like great big. Just something minute would be cool. All right, good luck working with adjustment layers.